And welcome, sumo fans.
Hello.
We are ready for the March tournament, which was supposed to be in Osaka?
They moved it back. Correct.
It is now going to be in Tokyo, so there's already off the bat something different. This is our Grand Sumo preview, and we'll go through all the guys on the list like we normally do. So without further ado, let's talk about the GOAT, Hakuho. Now, Hakuho, well, let's start off with this. We had this great plan of what the tournament was going to be like, and then everything blew up. And Hakuho was the very first one to sort of throw the wrench in the plan. He got COVID. There's a short little piece from Chris talking about Hakuho's experience, but basically it did knock him for a loop and it did throw some of his practice off. So he did not start the practice sessions when everybody else did. It was kind of up in the air as to whether or not he would attend. He did attend, but he did not attend on the day that I watched, so I can't say how he looked. I can just say that he did his Hakuho thing with some of the lower guys, not the top guys.
Yeah. So with the January tournament sort of had the wrench in the works. A lot of the things that we thought were going to happen in January would be happening in March, but with the same caveats that one, how much did the COVID affect Hakuho? He seemed to have his normal swagger. And two, this tournament doesn't start until that Sunday.
That's right.
Anytime beforehand, there could be an outbreak and then half the people are benched again. So
we will make no predictions. We'll just talk.
Just talk. We can sort of predict, but then...
What's the point?
Yeah. Then the 13th of March, somebody coughs and COVID happens. But in any case, if Hakuho does show up, it is definitely going to be something that a lot of people have been waiting for. Yes,
and I just hope that COVID hasn't knocked him back to where we have like a Kisano Sato moment where you're like, yeah, he's back. And then it's like, oh, he loses 4 in a row and drops out.
That would be...
So it was really up in the air, unlike January where I thought, wow, he's ready. He's going to go in there and destroy people. I don't know. I know that he's not going to get COVID again, so that's good. But I just don't know what kind of shape he's in. I know he's hungry, though, because the last March tournament, he won.
The last March tournament, he won, and I can't help but imagine that he's just been spending the last 2 months seething. Just thinking of all the people he could have slammed.
And how much he wants to do it now.
Yeah, so how much of that burning sumo spirit is going to counteract whatever physical issues he may be having on top of the career of wrestling, which is grinding him down.
You know, I just wonder if he's going to be standing on a cliff going, I will ascend. If you put it in the comments section where that's from, that'd be cool. The next wrestler is Kakuryu, who we have not seen since March. I think March was the last tournament.
Well, last tournament that he fell on his face for one match.
Oh, yes.
It's been
the last real tournament, we'll say.
It might have been January, March. It was not... It's been a while.
It's been a while. And he actually did show up to the practice session. I believe he was at the session the entire time. Is it still going on?
I think they're done.
Okay. He's very interesting because, the practice session is his own topic. But he definitely commands the respect in the room, but it's a very different feeling than when Hakuho is in the room. And the best way I could describe it is, it feels like a respect out of respect, whereas with Hakuho, it's a respect out of fear.
Definitely.
I'm sure there's respect in there too, but, Kakuryu has more like one of the guys feeling to me.
Yeah, I look to him as the leader of like the sumo wrestlers, so he speaks on the wrestlers' behalf. So he sort of has like a student council president kind of a vibe.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it.
He's in charge. He's someone of authority and respect, but at the same time, he's sort of, he's not going to cause a lot of waves. And then Hakuho is like,
I'm going to be just brutal on you.
Yeah.
And nobody really wants to be called out by him. Maybe they want to be called out because they want some experience, but they know he's going to destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I liked seeing the Kakuryu elder statesman thing. Seeing these practice sessions is new because I just found the channel. So this is my only reference point for Kakuryu, and I just thought it looked good. My concern is that you can look great in practice. It doesn't mean anything. It could mean something. It doesn't mean anything. Because that ring rust is a real thing. And he hasn't fought in a real match in a long time. And all it takes is one little slip up and your head gets all screwed up.
All the people that have had, well, Kakuryu didn't have COVID, but he did have a lot of injuries. And in general, somebody coming back after that, the first 5 days to a week, are always going to be a little bit more shaky for them. So it would not be out of the ordinary for Kakuryu to drop a couple in the beginning, throw another Kimboshi in the pile. Maybe it'll happen to Hakuho too, but I would say going in there that if he's, 1 and 2 at the gate, it's not the end of the world.
Agree with that. As long as he doesn't do an 0 for, 0 for 1, maybe he can recover. 0 for 2, it starts to get a little, 0 for 3, it's done. And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
With the Yokozuna. And this is his last chance.
Yes. This
supposedly.
Is as much of a last chance as it possibly could be. It sounds like Kakuryu was a little bit more explicit in him saying, I know it's probably my title's on the line this time around. And it's been, ultimately, whenever Kakuryu steps into the ring, it's going to be for the belt.
Right.
So if he does a magical pull-out at the last minute, are they going to make him retire? Maybe, maybe not. The fact that he showed up to the practice session and had a sort of a go of it makes me think that he's making his final rally. He's
at least throwing it all out on the table. It's not going to be one of these, I'm just going to step in the ring for old time's sake. He's going to see what he's got.
He's going to see what he's got.
And we can all only hope that he's got it. That's what we ultimately want, because we're really not ready for a Yokozuna yet. Which brings me to Shodai. Shodai had a good tournament, 11 and 4. I say good instead of great simply because as an Ozeki with Yokozunas on the way out, presumably you want to keep seeing these guys get 12, 13, 14, 15 wins. I don't think in this state of sumo we can actually expect that, but I'd say Shodai performed well enough to be, I'm the Ozeki. I actually expect him to do much better this tournament, barring any injuries. I think that, because he had Kataban. So getting 11-4 when you have Kataban sends a statement of, okay, I belong here. Now what am I going to do the next time around? And I think he's going to show up for this tournament.
Even though Shodai was probably the least expected to be Ozeki of the top group, he's also showing the least amount of pressure from being Ozeki. Asanoyama had a little bit of shakes. Takakeisho is sort of a roller coaster. But with Shodai, he shows up. Maybe he'll be stiff. Maybe he'll do like a panic pull here and there. But the sumo is remaining that consistent amount that got him here in the first place, which is a very good sign. Now, I would agree with you. If he can start doing a 12-3, maybe a 13-2, that's going to be those pivotal 2 wins. Seems to be the difference on Shodai from being a good Ozeki to a candidate for Yokozuna.
Exactly. And ultimately, that's what people care about right now. Because you've got 3 Ozeki, possibly a 4th. We'll get to him. The point is to take over for the Yokozuna, and now they're going to be gone. It could be any tournament now, they're gone. So somebody's got to step up and start winning 12. Now, with the 2 Yokozuna back, if they're in any sort of fighting shape, that is going to impact how many wins Shodai gets. He hasn't faced them in a long time. And I'd have to check on that, but I don't think Shodai has a great record against either Hakuho or Kakuryu, but they're also not the same wrestler. So that's a wild card. So we go to Asanoyama, same record, 11-4, but he's just shaky. He's a shaky Ozeki. I think it's all in the head, but that matters. Like you were just saying about Shodai, 2 or 3 wins and who they're against as well. Makes a difference between being, okay, you belong in Ozeki and, okay, you're going on a Yokozuna run. It matters, and it matters now. Asanoyama was at the practice sessions. He, to be honest with you, he doesn't have a presence. He is missing the Ozeki presence. And we'll get to this, but Takayasu had it. Now, Takayasu was an Ozeki for a long time. He never lost that swag. Asanoyama doesn't show that swag. He just looks uncomfortable to me.
It feels like Asanoyama still needs to grow into those shoes a little bit. Now, where a lot of the people who are injured and definitely the people who are out on COVID are going to have those first 5 days of rust, for Asanoyama, those are the 5 days he needs to win. Mm-hmm. His second week, Asanoyama has been the Ozeki dream that a lot of people have been wanting. That particularly his match against Shodai, and, well, Terunofuji has his number, but nearly everyone else he's been showing really strong. So if Asanoyama starts off with a good, 3-1, 4-1, he's a title contender there. So I'm going to be very closely keeping an eye on him for the first week, because for me, that will dictate whether or not he's going to be getting a second cup and starting his Yokozuna story.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that's where the issue is that slow start. And barring some weird Twilight Zone thing where he has an awesome first week and a terrible second week, I think you're right that whatever happens in the first week is going to tell the story for him. Mm-hmm. So next we have my guy. God, it's so hard sometimes to have a favorite because it hurts you when things go wrong. I wish I could be neutral sometimes. Takakeisho had a total collapse. He started off just abysmal. The 2 wins that he got were not that great. They were like, yeah, you should get those wins. And then he left with an injury, which, I mean, I believe he had an injury, but I also believe, he went until he got to, 2-7?
2-7.
So he didn't get an official, Makikoshi through losses. He got it through, dropping out. I can't speak about injury because we talked about this before. His body is prone to injury, so he might always be battling something, but his head was not in the game. And Chris said something that I really thought was the case, so we'll see. I don't know if Takakeisho will ever say it, but I think Hakuho's thrashing just destroyed his confidence. And the worst part about that is then Hakuho wasn't even in that tournament. So it's like, if Takakeisho could get out of his own head and just do what he does, then that's the best way to proceed. I think he's probably way too hard on himself, but he still does have to tackle the body, He's very overweight for his height. It's a height issue. He carries the fat in ways that it will make you get injured. So, I don't know.
As you've definitely mentioned in the past, Takakeisho is somebody who is defined by overcoming obstacles. Mm-hmm. So his body size, the way that he wrestles, the emphasis on push sumo, his mental toughness or sometimes weakness, these are all things that he has overcome to reach Ozeki. And I look at this as a new obstacle for Takakeisho because he has not had a complete breakdown like this, at least not in the top division. And from what I vaguely recall, Takakeisho was one of those people who just had a meteoric rise. Like as soon as he turned pro, He was at the top pretty quick. So I don't think he's ever gone through something like this, at least to this degree of a 2-win Basho.
Yeah.
So what will be interesting for Takakeisho is where he goes from here physically and mentally. And I don't know if he'll clear Katoban. That's sort of a coin flip, honestly. Now, he's also, in his defense, he has gone to Katoban. He's gone to Sekiwake, the 10 wins to get back. He's gone through that with injury. He also did it right when he started being Ozeki. So he does have that, I guess, that mindset to fall back on. It's just, I look at this and I'm like, this is a unique case. This is the season 3 cliffhanger here. It's just like,
it sure is.
They're like, this is a new enemy. How is he going to fight this one? And I don't know how this is going to end. I can't read this. It's fascinating, sort of like almost morbidly, because I'm like, I can really be mad and angry in about 2.5 weeks, or I could be just fist pumping and yes, he just crushes people and it's like January never happened.
Well, it's interesting because Enho was like, everybody's so excited about Enho because he was the little guy and he was making it up. I don't think people realize, because Takakeisho is so powerful, he is the actual, like, anime storyline. Because he's, like you said, he's had to battle all these things, and he was a kid, and he's telling people, my dream is to be Yokozuna, and they laughed at him. And he used just the sheer, grit of his heart and the training to make it up to where he is. And the problem is, does he have anything more? What do? You put everything into this and you got to the second highest rank. Are you capable of going any higher? If the answer is no, well, what's the solution? He's got no choice but to keep going.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. If I didn't like him, I would love to be on the outside looking in going, well, I can't wait to see how this storyline goes. I just hope it doesn't end in heartbreak.
We'll see. But the Ozeki it's a vastly different story than last tournament. Last tournament, well, first off, it was the gotta clear Katoban, and then for Takakeisho, it was the Yokozuna run, because he won the November tournament. Now we're looking at this everything's been topsy-turvy. Now we're sort of looking at Shodai and Asanoyama, and we're like, the Yokozuna are in the room. Even with Kakuryu and Hakuho in whatever shape they're in, and Hakuho you can cut his leg off and he'll get 15 wins anyway. Like, if Shodai or Asanoyama could take a win off of Hakuho and Kakuryu right now,
that would be huge.
That's huge. Now, for Takakeisho, if he gets that same win right now, it's almost balanced. It's just like, okay, you got the Kataban, but then you threw Kakuryu down.
That would matter.
It would matter a little bit. Like, it would help with the redemption a little bit, but sort of where the momentum is going is so different now.
And, I will get off of Takakeisho in a second, but we've heard nothing from him this time.
That's true.
There was always something, like a little interview here. As far as I know, he hasn't talked to anybody, or they haven't published it. So he's going to come back in some kind of shape, and it's going to be a surprise.
It's going to be a surprise. Mystery.
So our next guy is a happy story, hopefully, and that's Terunofuji. He needs 10 wins this tournament to be Ozeki, right? This is where
the Ozeki the theory math. So he had 11 wins in January. He had 13 wins in November, where he tied for the Yusho race with Takakeisho. So on paper,
he had 14.
Yes. Well, on paper, he had 14.
Right.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So, like, on paper, that's him with 24 wins combined, and that means that he would need 9 wins to get to 33. They usually don't like the number 9 when you're doing Ozeki stuff. So 10 wins, and then you can say he has 33 or more wins with a Yusho caliber score.
Right.
So even though he didn't win the tournament, he was in the playoff for the tournament. Now, again, this is all going to come down to how Terunofuji performs.
Yes.
And I don't see anybody stopping him.
Yeah, I mean, barring his knees having a complete collapse, which I'm sure everybody's sort of
pins and needles on that one.
He's just so strong and he's so talented that he should have this no problem. I do think they'll do that weird conditional thing where not only do you have to get 10 wins, but you got to beat X.
Maybe.
You got to at least beat blah and blah and blah. Maybe even you need to beat one Yokozuna. I am dying to see him fight the Yokozuna.
I don't want to say this out loud because I will jinx it and then it will be entirely my fault. But we have been waiting for that Terunofuji Hakuho fight for far too long.
The saltiness on either of their faces. Just think about it. They're both the saltiest men in sumo.
They're gonna pucker up.
And they've had plenty of encounters before Terunofuji's fall. So they know each other. It's not going to be a new clash. I want a dream, but my dream was dashed last time. So maybe I'll just put that in my pocket.
Yeah. So like Terunofuji, 10 wins will probably get him Ozeki. A win, I would agree with you, a win off of either Yokozuna, it's basically in the bag.
Yeah. That would guarantee it.
Near guarantee. Now, if he wins the tournament, they're gonna basically just make him do the vows right on the dough, right?
Right. They're like, let's just make this done.
They're gonna get a piece of paper and a pencil from the back and just be like, "You're Ozeki now."
Can we just skip the Ozeki, just make a Yokozuna. But you're the only one who looks like a Yokozuna.
Yeah, there's that too, and that's gonna be definitely something we talk about in May.
Oh yes, and I would like it. I would really like it because I think Terunofuji would have been Yokozuna had he not had the injuries. It's obvious he's like a top guy, and we don't know how much time he has left, so it's got to come quick. So yeah, a little dream in my pocket there. The next guy is Takanosho. He stayed at the same rank despite being 9 and 6. This has a lot to do with the
logjam.
The logjam at the top. Somebody was gonna get stuck with that. He is close to an Ozeki run. At this point, it's just put your head down, do your tachi-ai, do your style of sumo one day at a time, and just pile up the wins and see what happens.
Yeah, Takanosho is an odd case. I'm looking over at all of the Sanyaku. Every single one has a story. They're going up, they're going down. There's a spotlight on them. You look at Takanosho, you're like, oh yeah, he's doing really well.
And he's always been doing really well.
And he, like, if you look at him just maintaining this rank, a younger, hungry guy, doing his own thing, maintaining Sekiwake, maintaining Sanyaku for a half year.
Yeah. And
I'm like, looking at him like, is that just going to explode on us one day?
Right, exactly. And, they Takakeisho and Takanosho moved to a new Heya, and apparently it's got some really nice training facilities. So, I mean, maybe he's bulking up, too. I think he's definitely got the goods to do something. It's just a question of when will it happen. Is it going to be a meteoric rise, or is he going to just keep it stable?
It's so...
Is he going to be Mitakeumi? I hope not.
It's only one Mitakeumi.
That's almost like a curse right there. So we'll keep an eye on him. It depends a lot also on who shows up to the tournament.
Yes.
But he always does have that advantage that he doesn't have to fight Takakeisho. And as you're looking at these, the only other guy who has that advantage in the top division is Kiribayama, because he'll never face Kakuryu. So, I mean, that is something that's interesting, because a lot of the Heiyas don't have, like, top two guys, like a Yokozuna and an Ozeki, or a Sekiwake and Ozeki, at the same time. So that is a huge benefit for Takanosho to have one top guy not to have to fight, and same for Kiribayama.
There's one scenario. That Takanosho has to fight Takakeisho.
In the playoff!
Come on!
I would love that. That's like a once in a I'd say once in a decade, maybe, where that kind of situation happens. That'd be fantastic.
But that wish is going in my pocket. I'm not gonna hold on to that one, but just...
Hey, anything can happen.
I'm putting it out there.
So next is Takayasu. He maintained the same rank as well, 9 and 6. He's looking really strong. He's looking really stable. And he was also at the practice session like he was prior to the January tournament. And he just carries that Ozeki swag even now. And I'm impressed by it because it must have been very demoralizing when he lost his Ozeki spot that he had held for so long. Goeido retires. Tochinoshin falls out. And the whole Ozeki thing that he had going is just gone. And he had a couple tournaments right after that where it didn't look too good.
Did not look good.
He's got back issues, and I'm sure he contemplated, like, can I do this? And here he is quietly working his way back up. And when he's in that practice session room, he's working harder than anybody. And everybody's showing him Ozeki respect, which I know is required in Japan, but still, to watch it, it's like he should be Ozeki. And what would be fascinating, I don't know what they would do, is if Takayasu and Terunofuji started moving at the same rate. Because I think there's only 4 Ozeki spots.
I don't know how that goes.
Yes, they could open up a spot, I would assume. But they've had no luck with Ozeki, so who knows? Yeah. Who knows what would happen in that scenario? Hopefully it wouldn't mess with Terunofuji if they moved at the same rate, where they say, well, Takayasu... Oh, wait, they both were Ozeki, so...
Yep.
If they were to move at the same rate, they would have a dilemma on their hands if one of these other guys doesn't drop out, which could happen.
Could happen.
But they're all young, unlike the Goeido, Tochinoshin, Takayasu contingent that went on for a little while.
My favorite thing about Takayasu is this return to form. like this tournament, there was some of it in November, but January tournament was when you really start to see the sumo that Takayasu had that got him to Ozeki. Him and Goeido still did the career Ozeki thing, but there was this slow fall from grace when those injuries caught up with him. Yeah. Now it's coming back up, and I'm just happy for him. And like every tournament, I'm like, you can push it a little further, push it a little together. It's I don't got to read on him whether or not he'll make it back to Ozeki, but if he keeps fighting the way he's been fighting and shows that 9-6 in the Sanyaku rank, like that's what you need to get there.
Right, and maybe he needs to take his time and just think about staying stable, and then good results come after that. If you think about trying to be Ozeki again, then your whole thing could fall apart.
Yeah.
That's a great segue into Mitakeumi, our career Sanyaku guy who, he even when he had a losing record, I think, at Sekiwake, one of the tournaments, they put him in Kobosubi. This guy's a career Sanyaku guy. I want you to make your pitch about the self-awareness before I go into my practice session talk.
So Mitakeumi started out, remember, 3-5, and the 3 wins he had were against the other Ozeki. Mm-hmm. So he had this focus. Like his focus was, I'm going to beat these Ozeki. I'm going to go there. And then that first week he just loses all the other matches. Then he goes 9-6. Right. So, like, on paper, you're looking at this, and you're like, 9-6, he's doing pretty good, but he had this weird first week, second week, 2 different wrestlers almost. And a lot of the interviews that were going on, Mitakeumi was always talking about, I'm going to do better, I'm going to get it. And now, in January, he started to talk about, I know I have this problem. Yeah, I know there's some mental issue, I'm working on it. And now, I don't know, this is all just talk, who knows? I'm looking at this, and I'm wondering if he's finally taking the step back and he's trying to sort of get the full picture. I don't expect anything to come of this. It's these little things, though. It's when you fight on that knife's edge.
Right. That's what makes a wrestler. Right? If anybody in athletic competition, what puts you over the edge is dancing on the edge. Mm-hmm. You either fall off the cliff or you make it to the top. But it's being in the danger zone that makes you push yourself or collapse. And that's where he's been. And it was interesting to hear the interview because, first of all, sumo wrestlers don't talk about that stuff.
No.
And you could tell me Takeumi's just a little bit different in that way. But it was a departure from his tough guy talk that I don't think even he believed, to just be honest. And maybe that can produce something. I will say this. I've heard a lot of stuff said that he's not great in practice, and maybe that's his issue. He was at the practice session, and there's a pro and a con to this. I've never seen him at the practice session before, so I think the fact that he was there and he really grinded it out was good. But I did actually notice that he wasn't going all out like the other guys. And it surprised me. It actually surprised me because it was notably different from what everybody else was doing. He was doing what you're supposed to do, but it seemed like he was going through the motions. And he would cut off at points where other guys would dig their heels in. And I was like, wow, that shows me something. I just heard about that, but now I'm seeing it. There's a little bit of a something there. He's just got to push himself. Now, maybe just by being at the practice session, that showed him that. Maybe just being at the practice session and doing what he's got to do pushed him a little further, but I wonder if he's just always been talented, and so now finding the motivation to be that guy is hard for him.
It could be hard. It could be something that it didn't get him here, so he has to find it.
Exactly, and we all have our personality quirks. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with him, it just means this is what it takes. It's really just a simple fact. What it takes is you to grind harder. If you don't do it, you don't do it. If you do, you do. I'm hoping that he had something click when he saw how hard these other guys go. I mean,
maybe.
They go until they are heaving. I worry about heart attacks. They go so hard. I mean, they are heaving. He didn't seem to push himself to that I'm going to die thing. Maybe that's a good thing for his long-term health. So, hey, maybe I can't say anything about it. So now we get to probably one of the first, about the Banzuke.
Yeah.
And we knew somebody was gonna have one of those moments. And that's Daieisho, who won the tournament. And yet, they did not put him up to Sekiwake. They created a new Komusubi slot, which does give him a tougher schedule than if he went to the Sekiwake spot. I can speculate. I don't know. But it sounds to me like maybe they really want to test him. Like, okay, great, you won a tournament, but we want to see more from you, so we're going to give you the tougher schedule.
He did the last time, and again, this is pure speculation. As far as I'm concerned, Daieisho should be Sekiwake, and
agreed.
I'm baffled. I'm looking at just trying to draw a conclusion. The last time that Daieisho was at the M1, M2, and had a winning record, they gave him the Sekiwake slot. And then he had the 5 and 10.
Right.
Now, I don't know if they noted that and were like, well, the last time we gave you the second slot, it was Sekiwake, so we'll give you Komusubi this time and you prove us wrong.
I think that's very likely, to be honest.
This is...
Right, it's speculation, but it just feels true. We can't know for sure, but it's not like you made up some crazy theory there.
Yeah, it is going to be a tougher schedule in Komusubi. But regardless, now he's back in Sanyaku, and I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of people that are either going to want revenge on him, or going to want to knock him down a peg.
Especially if Hakuho's in top shape.
Yeah, well,
because Daieisho's taken wins off of Hakuho. Very few people can say that are in this upper echelon. So, I mean, he's, beaten Hakuho. Now, it's in his, post-great form, but, he's taken some off of him, and I could see Hakuho, and he's making his list.
Okay.
Daieisho's near the top of that list.
It's on top of that hit list. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on Daieisho just everywhere. This is typically the case for whoever wins the tournament. Daieisho in particular, because he was already sort of on the upper crust, and now he's breaking into what is already a very crowded Sanyaku rank.
Where everybody's gunning for Ozeki, pretty much.
Yeah.
Everyone except Mitakeumi. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. You might prove me wrong.
Prove us wrong, Mitakeumi.
We want you to.
What? Make us eat our shoes.
So, it's great that he got the title and all, but I think Daieisho's work is still, it's coming now. This is more important than the title win, as weird as that may sound. Simply because if he wants to get higher, he needs to prove it wasn't a fluke. There's so many first-time winners out there now, and they just kind of hang out towards the middle or the bottom. He wants to separate himself from the Tokushoryu and put himself up with the Shodais and Asanoyamas. So, our next guy is Takarafuji, who was my very first favorite because I think Takakeisho was quite new when I started watching sumo. And, Takarafuji was just that middle management guy. You knew he was very talented, but he just stayed in the middle, go up a little bit, go down a little bit. Since his stablemate Terunofuji's come back into prominence, Takarafuji looks like a totally different wrestler.
He is a new self, durable, calm under pressure, an immovable object at times. It's been great watching him go. And this time last year, would you be like Takarafuji into the Sanyaku?
No.
I'll be like, he's on the way down. But now I'm like, if there's room for him, he's gonna find a seat. There's a little bit of musical chairs going on up there, and that there's a lot of people and there's fewer seats than there are people running around in that circle. And Takarafuji's gonna be one of those people who'll be like, you slip, I'm there.
Yeah.
My seat now.
And he's been doing this a long time. He's got a lot of experience. He's fought Hakuho, for instance, more than anybody else on this list, I think, besides Kakuryu. Maybe even more than... I doubt more than Kakuryu, but Takarafuji's an elder statesman. It's kind of nice to see one of these older guys, making a push simply because of that experience. At the very least, he's going to teach the youngsters something.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. It's this nice resurgence that Terunofuji seems to have led. Yeah. A lot of these veteran rank and filers are sort of just like finding that inner fire again. And Takarafuji is just showing us all
It really shows you the mental part of sumo.
Yes.
Like, just these little things can become big things. Mental changes, motivations. All of a sudden, you just take what you have and you can just go higher. It's so very samurai, I have to say.
It's also really, really, like, feel good.
Yeah. Make you feel like, yeah, maybe I could go out there.
Maybe I can do it.
I can't. But it feels good in the moment. So next is Onosho. He's at Maegashira 1 West, up from Maegashira 3 West. He was 9 and 6. He's steadily been building something. He's one of the younger guys. No longer the youngest guy now that we have this new crop coming in. But he's Takakeisho's age. So he's got time. And it's just taking him a while to figure out his tachi-ai. His footwork is probably his biggest problem.
Mm-hmm.
So just quietly rising is good because he's just got a lot to work on. And if he just puts it all together, he's a tough competitor.
This is another tournament that the Maegashira 1 East and 1 West are two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
And that last tournament, it was Hokutofuji and Daieisho. And they both sort of were like, are you going to give us that extra Sanyaku slot? And they said, no, prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this time, we've got Takarafuji, some like the older guard, coming up to make a statement. And then we have Onosho, part of the newer crop, coming up. His moment to make a brilliant sumo story happen. Both of them are at that pivot point. If either of them do really well, they'll be in Sanyaku, and for both of them, that's going to be something that's, well, Takarafuji's been there, but not recently.
Right.
And like for Onosho, who was sort of thrashing some of the Sanyaku last tournament, and like the last time Onosho was up this high, he got whack-a-mole back down.
Mm-hmm.
But so now Onosho, he had that 9 and 6 at 3. When you're at 3, you're not fighting the willy-nillys.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that also is going to put Onosho up against his mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And
I look forward to that.
That is another fight. Hakuho, please, for the love of God, show up this time.
I know. I gotta make a list. Like Hakuho's making a list. I'm making a list of all the Hakuho matches that I really want to see. And the Onosho one is on there because it's been a while since they fought, but I do recall the last time they fought, he beat Onosho quite handily. But he gave him a little tap, and he gave him the respect, and it wasn't that mean, bowl you over kind of thing. It was like, come on, buddy.
Good to see you up here, it was. That was the feel. Like, Onosho was like, he lost before he entered the dohyo. Not a problem.
The aura just overcame
like,
him.
Also, again, the first time Onosho, like, that was the dream realized. He wins the Hakuho Cup, then he gets to fight Hakuho all the way at the top. So it's just like dream fulfilled, and it's like, now it's for real, buddy.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the Onosho like the swagger on him?
Oh, he's got the swagger.
And then like Hakuho can't be mad at that.
He can't be mad at that.
That's like he's just looking at the future. Yes. So like it's gonna be that strained smile from Hakuho that he's just mad but also happy. You see, this is what Onosho can do if you don't do another 2 and 13.
Yes, and you got to do it quick because Hakuho's not going to be around.
He's not going to be around. Longer. Come on, please. This is gonna be good. This is good. There's a lot.
Are we pulling the dreams out of the pocket?
I'm sorry. There's a hole in my pocket. They're falling all over the floor.
So the next is Hokutofuji, who is Maegashira 1 East. He did bring himself all the way up to 7 and 8, but he wasn't looking that good. I don't know if he was tweaking his sumo. It seemed like he was trying things, and there's nothing wrong with changing your style. That could really put you over the edge. But sometimes you're going to have an off tournament because you do that. And it might have just been an off tournament. Just trying too many new things, not confident in what he does best. I'm not really worried. I think this might be a good tournament for him.
So, I guess good news, bad news for Hokutofuji. The good news is that he went from 2 and 8 to 7 and 8, and those 5 days kept him only a rung lower than where he was. The bad news is that he is no longer going to be out of the way of all the people who gave him those 8 losses.
Yeah.
And now we're adding 2 more people onto the list that are going to be giving him a few more losses. So dude, it's that car crash is coming and you want to look away.
That's because he's your favorite.
This is my favorite. This is the other side of the coin. I'm looking at this from like, no. I'm like, I saw them, that they're all coming back. I'm like, oh no. Oh no, he's got double-digit losses. Hokutofuji, hang in there.
Yeah.
But he is trying things. He's doing some stuff with the belt. He's making some movements. He still needs to like tighten up that wildness a little bit.
Yeah.
So is that time? Is he ever going to get that? And is he just, it's that little extra. It's that he is, all the pieces are there. He just needs to look at the box. Pause. He needs to look at the picture on the box and be like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
It's fascinating because we can analyze all of the sumo techniques and their matches and stuff. But it is fascinating that these are all people.
Yeah.
And connected to the wrestling is the personality and the uncertainty of life. Like when you say, I don't know what's going to happen, that really is the truth. Unlike when you're watching like a show or, watching certain types of fights where like the guy is ranked way higher. You're like, we know who's going to win this. In sumo, there's so much uncertainty because it's real people, a real story, real hard work, and then the outside factors like injuries and COVID and politics and whatever else is going on. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. And he is a huge question mark simply because he's got the goods, but he's all over the place and only he can solve that in the end. Only
he can solve his own problems, but he's like, he will be fighting his demons again.
Yep.
For better or for worse. And so what we will see for Hokutofuji this tournament is whether or not he's making the physical, mental, strategic changes to overcome those, or he'll just go down to like 5 or 6 when we're done with this, and I'll be sad again.
Yeah.
Sadness is as much a part of the roller coaster as anything else.
It is, because there's a lot of joy when it goes the other way.
Yes.
So next we have Wakatakakage. He is the first on our list, because Hakuho is always going to be Yokozuna or he's going to be gone. He's the first on the list to have a benefit, I guess you could call it a benefit, of keeping his rank because he got COVID. Of course, it's not a benefit to get COVID, and apparently he really struggled in his practice bouts. Check out Chris Sumo for this information. He really struggled because his lung capacity was not up to where he was used to. And then Hakuho wanted to fight him in the practice session to kick the crap out of him, just to be like, hey, I'm going to help you. I'm like, I don't know if that's helping him. You could kill him. I don't know. But he withstood the Hakuho barrage, as far as I know. But that is a factor, He might just not be up to it, but we'll see.
Yeah. In January, Wakatakakage was going to be the great foil, and him not being there meant that a lot of those matches, like with Daieisho or Shodai, like a win over either one of those would have been a difference in the tournament. Maybe he would have been in the picture. Unlikely, but he definitely would have played a part in that landscape. In March now, this is I hope you get 8 wins, or I hope you at least don't get double-digit losses, because you just got to take whatever you have left after COVID was done with you, and then go fight the best in the world.
Exactly.
Very rough position for him. But the thing is that Wakatakakage, when he came in, immediately had the ankle sprain. He fell right back down to Juryo, and then he came back up like nothing happened. Right. So, worst case scenario, he does terrible. His body's not in for it. Maybe he has to go Kyujo halfway through. He'll be back. He's young. He's hungry. He takes the risks. It's just sort of, you show up for him and try to do something.
Yeah. We'll just have to sort of touch him with kid gloves until this whole thing passes. That's one of those external factors, right? And you see this with Takayasu. A couple years ago, he ended up getting the flu right before the tournament or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, and so he was actually really sick and fought. And, it might have been somebody else got cellulitis. He got cellulitis too. And, that was it. He had to drop out of the tournament. He was just too sick. So regular things can hit you too that have nothing to do with your training. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll be as if COVID never hit him.
Hopefully.
Next we have Meisei, who is Maegashira 3 East, up from Maegashira 7 East. He had an 8 and 7. He's slowly bringing himself back. He did drop all the way to Juryo, won the Juryo tournament. He's been in a couple tournaments now in the upper division. He's one of my dark horse picks. I thought way before all that stuff happened that he was going to be in the talk, in the Sanyaku. I thought he was going to do a lot of things. He's slowly going up. He was in the practice session. He was working hard. I think he's got the goods. I'm not going to say that it's going to show up yet. This might be another 8 and 7 tournament, but I think he's building on something, and we'll see him in the Sanyaku eventually.
Yeah. Meisei is... There's some interesting things going on with the Banzuki in general. And now, because the whole upper ranks, virtually everybody in the top outside of the Yokozuna and Takakeisho had winning scores. So the lower that 2 through 5, a lot of people had losing scores. And so everybody's got dumped down. So as a result, somebody like Meisei, who was at 7 East, had an 8 and 7 score, which is scraping it. But then that jumps him up to 3 East. So he got a real nice promotion here. This may be either close to or at Meisei's highest personal best for rank. And so, in a way, good news for Meisei, you're back to where you were before, if not better. Bad news, you're in sniping range.
Right, and are you ready for this?
Is he ready? Like, would he have been a little better off at a 5 East instead of a 3 East? But, I mean, if anything, for Meisei, like, this is when he wants to cut his teeth. Like, this is where he wants to be.
Right, and I think he's got the guts for it.
Yeah.
Some guys, everybody's got the guts to some degree, but some guys, you see a tentativeness. He's a gritty guy. I just see him saying, yeah, throw me in there. I don't care. So
where Wakatakakage would have been the foil last tournament, I think Meisei will be that foil now. I see Meisei, I don't know how many wins or losses he'll get, but I see him getting a win off of somebody that's going to cause something else happening.
Right, the chain reaction that costs someone a tournament.
We'll see. But it's good to see him up here. He's back to where he wanted to be, and now he's sort of like, welcome to the big leagues now. Let's see
what you got.
See what you got.
Which brings us now to Shimanoumi, Maegashira 3 West, up from Maegashira 10 East.
Another big jump.
Yeah, so he's going to be seeing opponents that are quite a bit different in skill than he would have if he just did a short, he was at 10. So if he went up to like 7, 5, now he's going to go up to 3 and he's going to see some of the top guys, especially if he starts winning again. I never had a good grasp on him. He had that surprise tournament where he was in the running, and then the very next tournament didn't go his way. I just don't know enough about him to know. I think we're going to learn about him in this tournament.
So I am concerned. So where Meisei a little higher up than he should be, like for Meisei, sort of like he's let me at him. Like for Shimanoumi, I think he got a little too high. And so the thing is that his grit, his durability, a lot of that we can't get him out kind of stuff that worked lower on down. I don't know if that'll translate up higher. Like if you go to Asanoyama and Asanoyama can't push you out, well, he's got the belt. Right. You go to Takayasu, he's just gonna muscle. You go to Shodai. Now, actually, that'll be an interesting match to see because
that would be a great match
because both of them have that sort of ability to absorb impact from cars, and so the two of them going at it, that'll be a fun match to watch.
Yes.
But now, again, Shimanoumi is fun. He's super chill. I'm a little worried for him up here, and I think if he comes out of this with 9 losses, it'll be good for him. If he gets that Kachikoshi, that'll be super cool.
Yes, absolutely. I understand your fears. So we'll just have to see what happens for him. Next we have Kiribayama, the protege of Kakuryu, up from Maegashira 8 West to Maegashira 4 East. He was 8-7, and I don't know. When he was in Myogiryu 1, we had high hopes for him, but we also knew it was possible he would eat dirt, and that happened.
And that happened.
He seems a little low-key for what he's trying to do. And that might just be how his personality comes across, like, through his fighting. But he seems to be a little bit just, I don't know. He doesn't have that extra grit that I thought he would have. And I just hope that he can keep winning. I hope we don't see another fall. I wonder if he feels pressure because he is Kakuryu's protege. This could be Kakuryu's last tournament. He might be like once Kakuryu is gone, he's the top dog in the stable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Kakuryu for so long didn't have anybody in the upper ranks. This is the first guy in forever. Kakuryu had no one to train with. He'd have to go to the other stables because he had nobody. So Kiribayama's like, he's got to be the golden child of the stable. So I don't know if he feels pressure or, this is just normal stuff. Because he does seem to have a laid-back personality that's a little like Shimanoumi, where I don't have a gauge as to what kind of fighter he is.
Interesting point about the golden child. He has sort of that similar vein to Asanoyama, that a lot of people are looking to him to carry on the legacy. What I'm really looking at Kiribayama is the quality of the sumo. Now, he did in November, he had the injury, just garbage. Yeah. So in January, he was pulling it back together. The wins he had looked like the guy who was Megashira 1 that we had those hopes in. Some of his losses were very questionable. And
True.
So I think like he needs more of that sumo when he was that dominant self. If he can tap into whatever that confidence was, he'll be fine.
And hopefully he's clear of all injuries, which I would assume he was at all those practice sessions. Uh-huh. So, injury does throw things off.
Yeah. The X factor here is a similar X factor from Terunofuji and Terunofuji, that if Kakuryu goes on a run, then we can have Kiribayama playing foil for his buddy.
Yes, which I love when that happens.
Massive speculation there. But this also goes into how we have Takakeisho and Takanosho, and that there's these groups, these pairings showing up at the top, and they can sort of feed off each other, and that can sort of...
Right, they can push each other up to the top.
That's a new energy. I think when Kiribayama was fighting, Kakuryu wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know that they've fought in the same tournament yet.
So there's again, that's the X factor. Will it matter? Maybe, maybe not. But if Kakuryu goes like 5-6-0 at the start, maybe Kiribayama will be like, I gotta catch up with him.
Yeah, and I can see
just
that.
Dig a little deeper. I don't know. We'll see.
It could be fascinating.
Also, Kiribayama gets a free pass on a Yokozuna unless they're fighting for the Yusho. I'm gonna keep saying that. I love this. I'm gonna say it until it happens, so I'll be like in a nursing home when I'm 80s and be like, unless they win, they're fighting for the Yusho. And they'll be like, yes, please go to bed.
John, you have Dream all over your kneecap.
Oh, yeah. It's just leaking down my leg.
No, someday we're going to get it.
Someday.
We are going to get it. Maybe it's
someday.
This tournament. So next we have Myogiryu. He's up from Myogiryu 9 West. He was 8-7. I do think this was a pretty high jump to Myogiryu 4 West. He's a veteran, so he's capable of pulling out anything. It's just a question of, how tired is he getting? What kind of injuries might he have? He's certainly got the skill to do whatever. So he's always just, you shrug your shoulders and say, what kind of tournament is this going to be?
So what's going to be interesting for Myogiryu is that he has put himself perfectly in between some of the upper people gunning for the top and then some of the lower ranking people who are making their first go. So he is in range of Kotonowaka, Chiyonokuni, Hoshoryu, Midorifuji. So now Myogiryu is still high up, and don't sleep on him. But I'm looking at Myogiryu, and I'm looking further down the Banzuke and saying, if some of these lower, the new prospects, the future of sumo, kind of like those people, if they start doing well, then they're going to start fighting Myogiryu, and he's not going to let them off easy.
Right, and that that has its own ripple effect on the entire tournament.
Yes.
So next we have Endo. Same rank, despite being 7 and 8. The same thing we will say. He's Mitakeumi in a different way. Endo is Endo. He's a mystery. He says barely anything in interviews, so you can't get used to his personality. He's got all the skill set to be great, but it hasn't shown up.
He did. There was a lot more try in January, it felt like. He still had his Endo moments, but like I saw the 7 and 8 and he kept his rank, and it's just like the ones that he lost, he tried a little more. It wasn't as many of him just like losing in 2 seconds that sometimes will happen. You're just like, come on. So, I mean, again, there's some little weirdness going on here. You have these people like, why wouldn't Endo be 6 and then Myogiryu be 5?
Yeah.
There's some things I'm not even going to try to
You don't
understand
even want to know.
I don't want it. There's but for Endo, it's sort of, I see it, it's a free pass for him. Just keep at it.
He got the COVID pass without getting
COVID pass without COVID. Why not?
Sure, it's a wacky Banzuke anyway. So, there's nothing more to say besides, we'll start over. Every tournament will start over. Is this the Endo tournament?
Is this the Endo tournament?
Oh, it's not? Okay. We'll see.
We'll see.
Next is Okinoumi, who also maintained the same rank with 7 and 8. He's been very impressive in that he's the quiet veteran where you don't necessarily think much about him, but then he wins these really good matches, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, he's Maegashira 5 West. Like, I thought he was going to slowly fall into the oblivion, and he's maintaining his own. So, he's somebody who could mess around with other guys and mess up their ranking, or maybe do an upset for the tournament. I would assume he's gunning for Sanyaku again, but I just think every tournament it's got to get a little bit harder to get back there.
A little bit harder.
A little bit more tired, a few more injuries. We'll see, though. I mean, the guys who endure are the ones who can keep their bodies in the best shape.
Yeah. What is interesting here is how Endo and Okinoumi, right next to each other, same rank, same Banzuke result, they are sort of two sides of the same coin in that way. And I thought that was very sort of interesting because, like, you see the 7 and 8 and you retain your rank. You're like, what's going on here? But for both of them, they both earned retaining their rank with a losing score in their own way. And it was a very interesting parallel. So for Okinoumi, where Endo sort of has the try, has this flash of skills, but then something falls apart. Like for Okinoumi, it is the just never say die. Don't sleep on him. If you count Okinoumi out, he'll be back in Sanyaku before you know it. And so both of them sort of have this weird, interesting energy to them. Now, are they going to make any movements outside of 5? I don't know. But the way these things align, I was like, that's interesting.
You're like, did somebody actually like look at it and say, well, these two would make a good pair? I wonder now when they make the Banzuke if they do that. Because in Japan, they love the yin and the yang. They love symmetry, and they love like the story of things. You have to wonder if there is some of that in their picking, because it's pretty arbitrary. When you're looking at who went where in this particular scenario, it's like, why'd you make that choice versus that choice?
I found it
interesting.
It was a curiosity. I was like, huh. I still think Okinoumi is going to fight every tournament to the last until he's done.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to his work.
Next, we have someone in a similar vein, Tamawashi. He dropped from Maegashira 4 West to Maegashira 6 East. He was 6 and 9. I think he's definitely the case of an aging veteran. He's got his strengths, including like breaking people's arms and ending their careers and stuff. I say that, but I do like him. But I think the juice is kind of running out. I think he's at the tail end of his career. Every time I say that, though, he has some sort of resurgence. So I might just be giving him what he needs to actually like blow everybody away. But my feeling is that he will be slowly dropping down after this.
The steady decline does make sense. It's worth noting that the majority of his losses were on the Sanyaku. like 5 of his 9 were all the upper ranks. And at Megashira 6 East, he may fight some of the Kamasubi, but he's not going to be fighting Miyazaki. He's not going to be definitely not going to be fighting the Yokozuna.
Right.
So he may be able to tread water here. At the same time, if it's a slow decline and he goes against a really, really hungry Tobizaru, then he's just going to keep going down. But he's still, if in that Tachi, if he gets you with that, he's going to win every time. It doesn't matter how old he is.
Exactly. And that's the key. I mean, for some of these guys, they do stuff so well.
Yes.
That you can't defend against it. Unless you really, really practice against that particular guy's move. Some moves are hard to defend against. So, yeah, having a strong Tachi, having the Nodowa, having some of these things, the fact that if he gets your arm, he might break it, that's enough for you to say, you know what, I'm just going to go right out.
He's just going to go out, yeah. I want to keep fighting.
That keeps him always in a conversation, at least for now. Next is our favorite Snorlax, Ichinojo, who, for the longest time was consistently, near Sanyaku, in Sanyaku, and then he had this massive collapse into Juryo, got stuck in Juryo for a while, and now he's slowly building himself up. He got a pretty big jump from Megashira 12 East to Megashira 6 West with that 9 and 6. He was at the practice session, and I will just say as a side, I felt bad for all those poor guys in Makushita trying to push him in the practice session. It's almost like, who did you offend that your job is to push Ichinojo? And he didn't make it too hard for them. I mean, they were having a hard time pushing him out, and he was just like, okay, I'll step out. He's still the gentle giant. But seeing him there makes me think that, while he seems like he's doesn't care or he loses his focus or whatever, I do believe he's very hungry, and I do think he tries. It just doesn't necessarily come across.
This will be a big tell on how much Ichinojo wants it, because his showing in January was some like a breath of fresh air for him. Yeah. And we kept making snooze button jokes. Yeah. And there was no snooze button in January. Like, the only time that it ended quickly is if somebody got him the better of the Tachi and he couldn't recover. So if Ichinojo has as good an outing in March as he does in January, he is back.
I will say there was one match in the practice session where he almost took this guy's head off. And I was like, whoa, Ichinojo, I've never seen you. And this is practice. So I think we might, if that practice session, I know that you can't count him for a ton, but if that's a glimpse into what kind of energy he's got going, because I know he lost a lot of weight, and that makes a difference. We might, if he can run at guys like that, he could beat almost anybody. So I hope that he does have that energy, and I think we might at least get a couple matches like that.
Let's see.
So next we have everybody's favorite fading star, Tochinoshin. Now, he was 4-11. It was a pretty abysmal tournament, and they only dropped him to Megashira 7 East. I was very surprised by that. I thought he was going to be dropped way lower, but I guess that's a testament to how bad some of the guys did at the bottom. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned that it's over.
Maybe.
This last tournament was not good for him.
He definitely needs a step down in competition to keep going. And I know that's not something that Tochinoshin wants to hear or admit. It's a lot of what he was losing was just bad one-sided fights. And there were a couple of moments. I think when he fought Kotonowaka, there was that spark of the old. But he needs to rank and file it for as long as he can still do this, which may not be much longer. So where some people, they went up a little bit higher and you're sort of just like, ooh, it's a little bit higher. I see him and I'm just like, he could have been an 8. I think 8 would have been comfortable. 7, I think he's out of the danger zone at 7.
Right. And now, maybe he's good enough for that rank. Yeah,
it'll be good. And again, he's similar to Meisei and Myogiryu and these people on the way up. It's just like some of these new people. There's a big Georgian nightmare in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, so he was getting thrown around by the top guys, but I mean, he's a huge guy.
Still a huge guy, still dangerous.
He has some tricks up his sleeve. He doesn't have to do the sky lift. So, I mean, he might throw around the smaller guys.
He was showing that adaptation in November that didn't translate into January. Maybe some of that will come back. It's sort of look at Tochinoshin, you're just like, how's your bag of tricks doing lately?
Yeah, like, I wish I could sell you a miracle drug or something. Because if I go into my pocket of dreams, I just really wish I could have seen Tochinoshin not injured and being Yokozuna.
God.
And just
effortless.
That the moment that he became Ozeki, that tournament that he won, and then going to Ozeki, were some of the best moments in sumo in recent years. It's just such a shame. It hurts that his knees just couldn't hold out. But, well, if as long as he's fighting, we'll keep rooting for him.
I'll always root for him.
Next we have Kagayaki, Maegashira 7 West. Down only for Maegashira 6 West with a 6 and 9. Slowly improving. He's a mystery to me. I think he's a head guy as well. Or maybe he thinks a little bit too much and gets himself into trouble. So we'll have to see. You know, I think he just needs to start over from last time and just have a fresh tournament.
For all these guys who are sort of like trying to find their way in the upper ranks, getting knocked down a little bit like this, that's their opportunity. You will have people like Onosho who'll go down, figure it out, go right back up. You have people like Enho who go down and don't figure it out. Still waiting on Enho. He's down but not out. So Kagayaki, he's in that phase right now. That he's got the size, he's got the power when he can get his head around it. He's got the skill. So this is a fresh start, spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Channel that March warm vibe.
Stormy Basho.
There it is.
Stormy Basho means anything could happen. We're going to fall away from this, like, last guy on the tournament rung wins. Maybe it's going to be a middle guy.
Yeah. Well, bad news for that rank is that because Daieisho created Kamasubi 2, no 17 East.
Yeah.
So our underdog theory is dead.
So next we have Kotonowaka up for Maegashira 15 West, 10 and 5. Kotonowaka's on everybody's list of rising stars. I think, if he lives up to that hype, which I think he will, it's just a matter of time. He will slowly rise. He will win the good matches. He's kind of low right now in terms of us seeing him fight anybody really exciting, but he's not that far away from it.
Yeah. Also, January really started to show that sumo, the stuff that people were like, keep an eye on this. Like he was showing that. That's 10 wins. That's some good stuff. So for Kotonowaka, this is the beginning. This is the momentum building.
Yep.
And compared to somebody like Hoshoryu, who we'll talk about in a little bit, Hoshoryu seems to be chained down by a lot of stuff, but Kotonowaka does not seem to have those chains.
Not at all.
So this is like, if this is the tournament for him, he'll get another set of double-digit wins. He'll be a lot like Meisei, that he'll just start running up until somebody knocks him down. Mm-hmm. So good momentum for Kotonowaka.
Yep, he's where he needs to be and going in the right direction. Next we have Tobizaru, Maegashira 8 West, down from Maegashira 7 West. He's 6 and 9. He's an interesting fella because he spent so much time in Juryo before he made his top division debut. Then he goes on that crazy run where he's like in the tournament talk. And now the question is he showing his true rank or is it just a setback? Because he's so fiery. He's so full of personality. He's got this spirit to him where you feel like he can win a lot, and it's not coming out.
He's just fun to watch.
He is. I want him to stick around.
You want him to stick around. I do not think that Tobizaru is going to plummet much. So he feels like he would be a middle of the pack person, at least the way he is right now. And like a lot of the people who are fresh out of Juryo or within a year, like you got to absorb that upper rank energy before you can power up a little bit. Cause like it's like in baseball, you go from minor leagues to major leagues. There's the transition that you sort of have to take your lumps. And then like once you're there for long enough, you start to acclimate and you get better and better. So Tobizaru is still in that process. And I think for somebody still in that energy, doing fine.
Yeah.
Doing fine.
He's in a good spot to, try to inch your way up versus, if he was in the first spot, you're gonna go all the way down. I'm hoping that he sort of reins in. He's got that Hokutofuji thing where he's got a lot of excess energy. I hope he reins some of that in just to focus it. It's not like get rid of it, but it's, focus on your Tachi-ai a little bit more. It's a little off. It's a little, I don't want to say weak, but there's something off about it. That's all I can say. It's a little all over the place. I think that might be where his issue is, and that might be because he's a smaller guy, and those smaller guys have that hanka kind of thing.
You gotta dodge a bit.
Right, like, am I going to dodge this? Am I going to go for it? I think he needs to make more of a choice, and I think that's always a problem for those sort of smaller guys is committing to that first impact. So I hope he has worked on that, and we'll see where he goes from there. Next is one of my other favorites, Chiyonokuni, who was all the way down, brought himself all the way back up, still injured and had a great tournament, and then he gets COVID. He had a lot of momentum going before he got COVID. I do not know how that has impacted his lungs or his training. There could be a bright spot if he was just got a very mild case and was able to rest because he had injuries he was obviously dealing with and he didn't have to lose his rank. So I hope this is a good situation and not a bad situation because he's had his share of catastrophes in sumo. And, I think he's a great wrestler. I really want to see him start taking names. So we'll just have to see. I have all these COVID cases. It's a sit back and hold your breath.
So for Wakatakakage, I'm like, ooh boy, gotta sort of, batten down the hatches. For Chiyonokuni, now again, the COVID will mess with your system, so it's always the X factor. But like for him, I am hoping that he's under starter's orders, and he is just going to go on a tear because now he's had that rest, right, which is ill afforded to sumo wrestlers. And like you had said, he fought so well in November while injured, while still patched up. Still had that fire, just going all out. If he has half of that, he'll do fine.
Oh, definitely. So, I'm just gonna hope that COVID is a non-factor and he just picks up where he left off. That is how I'm going to go into this expecting. Now, our expectations, you can just throw them right out the window. But...
Yeah, I lost one of my lungs. Damn it.
Well, it's just what this world is now. So next we have Hoshoryu, Maegashira 9 West. He's up for Maegashira 14 East with a 9 and 6. But I wouldn't say it's good news for him.
No.
This poor guy. I'll let you go into Uncle.
Ugh.
But I'll say this. He was at the practice tournament. He was working hard. He was in the mix with everybody. I think he looked very focused. It looks like his head is in the game. I hope that's really the case and not just him faking us all out because he's got some head issues. You can speak about those.
Yeah. So he's haunted by the not ghost of Hoshoryu, who is yelling angrily at him on Twitter whenever he loses. And that's that is a pressure that nobody needs. If you have if everything that you do in your professional career is being filmed to millions of people, and every time you do it wrong, your legend of an uncle goes on Twitter and just dumpsters you, that's
as bad as it gets.
I don't care what you do. You could be a janitor, which is not to disparage janitors, trying to find an opposite of a sumo wrestler. A housemaid? I don't know. But imagine if the nanny had an angry uncle. It's just like, you knocked the vase over. That's what this poor soul is going through right now. And of note is that he went on that tear, that he had like 6 losses.
Probably after the Twitter rant.
They had the Twitter rant, and then there was that discussion we were having because he had like 7 wins. He was like 2-6. He had those 7 wins, and then 2 of them were those Henkas. And we had this whole discussion about how much of that is head games. Like, taking a step back, I'm looking at this and I'm saying at 9 West, he has a little bit of a cushion. So barring a complete disaster or, I guess, pissing off whoever does the Banzuke or whatever happened to Tokushoryu, getting to him in a little bit, like, Hoshoryu should at least know that failure is not going to cost him his top division rank. Now, the thing is that he's going to have to deal with Asashoryu. Even
if he wins, he's going to deal with him. So,
like, every time he loses, he's going to hear about it. That's just, I don't know what to say to
I feel bad for him.
I don't know.
I hope that, this is a side, but I hope that there's no bad blood with the Sumo Association in him. I hope they just leave him alone, because they didn't like Asashoryu that much, and Hoshoryu is very different. He has a very polite, very, like, in-the-system kind of personality, whereas Asashoryu is like, I hate everybody and I'll do what I want. So I'm hoping they just sort of leave him alone there because he's got enough pressure from Uncle.
Enough pressure, yeah. So Hoshoryu definitely does have the makings for a new star if the ghost of Christmas past will let him.
Yes, just chill out, stop drinking and going on Twitter.
It really, I think, for Hoshoryu, if he breaks 7, if he gets actually, if he breaks 8, if he gets over the halfway point, he gets to the top half, there's got to be some mental switch that you're just like, I'm here now.
Right. I don't have to question if I'm good enough.
Because that's
what this is.
Because, I mean, then what will happen is, in this dream world that may be reality, but we don't know because it's in the future, where Hoshoryu gets high enough up that he's in contention for a lot of things, then Asashoryu's yelling is gonna turn from like condemnation to just like Statner and Waldorf in the stands.
Exactly.
That he'll be in the Yusho race, and Asashoryu is just like, what kind of technique is that? He should have been down, and then you would have been like, okay, Uncle,
Right. You're like, I don't have to worry about him. He's just my crazy uncle.
Exactly.
Versus, what if he's right?
That has to be in there. Like, So anyway, Hoshoryu, just for the love of sumo, hang in there, buddy.
You can do it.
We believe in you.
If we could go on Japanese Twitter, we would tell him you're wrong. And
if Asashoryu comes and visits me tonight, I will say he's absolutely right about everything he said.
Please leave me alone. Yeah, you wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley.
No, or a light alley. Or anywhere.
Anywhere.
Well, maybe like 6 feet. Social distance. But not because of COVID, but just because I don't want to be in slap range.
That's right, that arm getting...
He's got reach, man.
So, we now have Midorifuji, the newest guy. Because I don't think there's no newcomers this time around. So that would make Midorifuji and Akiseyama the newest guys. But Akiseyama was here before. Midorifuji, this is...
Second tournament ever. He, actually, he's up for Maegashira 14 West. Yeah, last time was his first tournament. It was his debut.
So he was 9-6. That's a great thing for your debut tournament. He was in the practice sessions in November, and he's very interesting. He's what you would want Enho to do, because he's a small guy, but he's big enough. He can't just swat him out of the ring if he does some ill-timed jump. So I think he could fill that hole until Enho figures it out. And who knows what he could do. I mean, we all want to see some small guy go in there and do his thing. Midorifuji he was a treat to watch. And I just could not be happier for Midorifuji. First ever, gets a 9-6. Almost gets a technique prize. So close. Hits the under shoulder swing down Hatatsukachi, or I should have written it down. You said that pretty good, actually. Got close. Should have written it down. Should have practiced it. Should have known. Anyway, Midorifuji can't wait to see what he does next, because he checks all the boxes. He does. And, it's getting ahead of myself, but it'd be fun to see him fight Hakuho. Oh, God. I mean, we're coming to a point now where the clock is ticking. Uh-huh. And everybody's got to get as high as they can if they want to ever wrestle with him. Just think about that for a second. All Midorifuji has to do is win a Yusho, and then Hakuho will go to him. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Midorifuji. It's like... Uh-oh, is it Hakuho? Close the curtains!
I'm not here, I got COVID.
There you go. That's how you keep Hakuho away.
That's how you keep Hakuho away.
Because since he already got it, maybe he feels emboldened to just show up wherever he wants to show up.
God.
That's scary for everybody. So next we have Ryuden, who is down to Maegashira 10 West from Maegashira 6 East. He was 4-11. Ryuden's just an up and down guy. I don't know if it's all the circumstances. A lot of things have happened to him. So there's that. Then there's whatever his personality is, which there's a quirkiness. I mean, he's riding a horse when he's doing his tachi-ai. Nobody does that. So there's a little quirk to that Ryuden character. And it makes it hard to know where he's going to go. You know, how good is he really? He had to be good enough to come all the way back from the bottom to get up to the upper division. It just, he's been there now for a long time. So he's good enough to keep it going, but he has these lapses. And some of them are out of his control. Some of them may be in his control. This is one of those situations where I wonder, like, does personality play a factor more than sumo style? Maybe.
I would like to think he'll come back strong. Now, in November, he was in pretty good shape, and then in January, he was not in good shape. Maybe he was injured. Hopefully he was injured. Maybe something's going on. Been a rough year for that boy, no matter how you spin it.
Yep.
So, that mental factor is on top of all of this. I'm not too worried about Ryuden until he's maybe 2 or 3 rungs lower. This is sort of what I was talking about. Well, Terunofuji Yoshi, I was like, oh, he'll be fine, and then he falls away. So there's that side of it. But I'm sort of looking at Ryuden, and I'm thinking that he's low enough down that he'll have a good time of it.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you. I'm not necessarily worried that he'll drop out. And I think, he'll probably perform at least at the level.
But you are right that it all starts piling on.
Yeah, and I just imagine that that's just what it is for him. Uh-huh. That's his struggle to overcome. So next we have Chiyotairyu. He is another COVID victim, so he maintains his rank. He had just lost all that weight and was sort of dabbling into a new style. And now he got COVID, and I bet you he lost weight from COVID, actually. Did he lose some strength from that? Definitely he's a wait-and-see kind of guy because he already was a wait-and-see. So we'll see if COVID affected him. I don't even want to put a venture as to... because he just seems like a different wrestler right now anyway. I
am envisioning that he will come out of his chrysalis as a beautiful butterfly. And... now, I don't know how long it's going to last. He is a veteran. He's only got so much time on the clock. And again, all this COVID, the big ol' asterisk is like maybe you've just been buggered by this thing.
Right.
But Chiyotairyu, he was showing that improvement. And for that kind of a process, longer term. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, just take that and just add 4 months of improvement.
Right.
Optimistically. Assuming all other things equal. And also knowing that Chiyonokuni, Chiyotairyu, Chiyonoshoma, they're all just... so for some of these people, they got it, and other people, they're just benched because other people got it. So imagine that some of them... I don't remember who was fine and who was not. We'll just have to assume they all got it.
Right.
But, can you imagine, it's tournament time? They're just sitting around bored all day? Let's fight.
Well, that's true. That's true. Anybody who wasn't really sick... they could fight the whole tournament.
Fight the whole tournament!
Extra practice.
Free practice. So, Chiyotairyu, I'm very optimistic on him. Now, it is definitely going to be up to what COVID did to him as to how good he'll really be.
Right, exactly. Next, we have Koto Shoho, Maegashira 11 West, down from Maegashira 3 East. 2-13. He had an Onosho tournament.
Yeah, that was a
rough.
Really rough. I think this drastic rank change is one we can all agree with.
Yeah, it was going to happen. There was no way to stop it. He couldn't pay for a win. People who could have let him win didn't let him win, which is good because that means that maybe out of there. But it was painful, and wasn't there one where it got overturned? Yeah, so they called it for him and they overturned it.
Some bad luck. There's two things I'm happy for Koto Shoho. One, that he got 2 wins and not 0, which would have just destroyed you. 2, he needed this to happen. Yeah. Everybody needs this moment. Now, could it have been a bit of a better moment? Sure. Yeah. I think we could have all agreed he could have learned his lesson with 11 losses instead of 13.
Yeah, even a 5 and 10 would have been better. That would
have been good. But now that he's gotten that taste of dirt, he can build himself back up. And I'm almost like, oh, good, he got that out of the way. Now he can just progress.
I agree with that completely. I mean, he's one of the young studs. I have no reason to think that this will be a pattern. And yeah, you do have to get this out of the way. Get your face in the dirt. I hope Takakeisho gets that message, from what happened with Hakuho. Like, just move on. Onosho did it. It's of no consequence. You just start over when you lose that bad. And you're low enough that you should be able to beat all these guys.
Yeah. Also, how young is he? Like 21?
Yes, he's 21.
He's super, dude.
You're fine.
You got 10 years to figure this out. And you're already in the top division. All good. So again, all smiles from here. Unless he gets another 2 and 13.
Well, I'd be more worried about injury. That's the thing I always worry about with any of them. Because we'll talk about that at the end. But injury is the thing that can derail anything. But he's in good shape. He's young. I think that's a blip on the radar. No one will ever think about that in a couple tournaments' time. So next we have the surprise Akiseyama, who had made his top division what's the word? I was going to say reboot, but that's not the word.
Resurgence, maybe.
Yeah, he's back. He came back, and he surprised himself. He had a very good first week. He was in the title race, quote unquote, but no one's really in the title race in the first week.
No.
He proceeded to lose a lot after that, but then he started winning again, and he got a very respectable 9 and 6. And he just had the most delightful interview where he said, I want to cry.
He's so fun. It's that bubbly energy that you don't get. It's similar to Tobizaru, but this is just it's like laughing Buddha kind of energy.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see more of him too. Both of the newbies from last tournament, I'm like, yes, please.
Yes, and he kind of had us going for a little while that the bottom guy, one of the bottom guys could win the tournament. Yeah. That was kind of fun. You need fun.
You do need the fun.
There's so much seriousness in this whole thing. Careers on the line, heartbreaking injuries. Let's have a veteran or two who's having a good time at the end of his career, who is really nice. And, it's going to be fun to have him in the mix. I hope he can last many, many tournaments.
As many tournaments as he can muster.
Yes.
Please. I like you.
Next is one of your favorites, Aoyama. He only lost 2 spots, which is good. He is in trouble.
He's in trouble. He needs to batten down the hatches. I would say he's in the danger zone. He's 12 in the bottom 16, but this is where you have a bad enough tournament in your Juryo. So now it's definitely at the end of his career, but it means that I can't talk about him on the podcast without some extraneous circumstances. So
yeah, he for some reason had to come in and fill in for somebody.
That'll happen. But
it'll happen.
It's just we all knew this was coming, and Tochinoshin was like this. Toko Shogiku was like this. It's just what happens.
Right when the time comes, the time comes.
Yeah. Shoho's on.
Yep. Although it seems like he's gonna try again.
We'll see.
We'll see. So next we have Terunofuji, who is only lost 1 rank. He's down from Maegashira 12 West to Maegashira 13 East. He got a 7 and 8. He's got the toughness, he's got the swag, but I think his strategy's all over the place. He's got that small man syndrome where he can't figure out if he wants to do the leg pick, if he wants to actually engage. You got to get a Tachi-ai, man. Your Tachi-ai can't be, I'm going to do the leg pick or a Henka. You got to get something with force. Even if you go to the side, at least come straight at the guy because they're reading this move. And I think you got more in you than what you've been showing because you're just all over the place.
Now, Terunofuji's strategy is definitely suspect. I'm giving him a pass because he got that 7 and 8 with 1 arm.
True.
So, that's for Terunofuji showed that he's just like, I'm here. I want this. Maybe he doesn't know how to get it. But like he suffered for that 7 and 8. I think that's why he only got the 1 rank down.
Yeah, because they take that into consideration.
That's the same reason that Endo and Okinoumi didn't lose their rank, is that he fought for it. So Takayasu just needs to channel that into a little bit more something else. Now, I mean, he did go pretty high up and then sort of fell his way back down. This is the arms race of the little man problem, is that once they figure out your tricks, then you have to figure something else out. So
right, exactly.
Maybe so. It's going to boil down to, will Takayasu come with a deep enough bag of tricks to get 8 wins or more, or play?
Is that arm okay too?
Yeah, fingers crossed on that too.
I would think so.
By now.
Yeah. Otherwise, we probably would have heard like
they're healthy boys too.
Yeah, young, strong.
Oh God.
They're not like. They're not Tochinoshin.
No.
Although Tochinoshin doesn't sit out tournaments. You gotta give him credit for that.
That's true.
So next we have Chiyoshoma. Now here's the interesting thing. He's got the same rank because of COVID. I thought I heard that he was going to retire.
Maybe.
And I don't know if that was just something I heard or if it actually happened. But he appeared on the Banzuke. So that surprised me because I thought it happened before the Banzuke came out. So I don't know if I had misinformation, if he was thinking about it and then he didn't do it. We gotta check into that. So
interesting, but
I do not know if Chiyoshoma will actually be in the tournament or not.
He sort of, it did feel like he got a little bit of a break with the COVID thing. He did do well enough in November to be like, okay, he's good enough for the mid to lower upper ranks. If he does retire, he was older. I mean, he's been around a long time. He's been along a long time. I wouldn't mind seeing him one more go, but I mean, with these people, like, when it's time to go, the last thing you want to do is keep fighting when your heart's not in it, because then all you're going to do is break your limbs.
Exactly.
So, if we see you at Chiyoshoma, it'll be fun to see you strafe around, do the side hustle.
Your in between, like, big man, little man sumo.
It's enjoyable. Nobody does it quite like him. And if it's done, thank you for what you have delivered to the sumo community.
Yeah, long career. We'll see what happens on day 1. Next, we have Koto Echo, who is down from Myogiryu 1 West to Myogiryu 14 East. 6 and 9. He's gotta come up with a plan. It's surprising to me. He seems like he should be doing better than he's doing, but he gets in these matches and it's all over the place.
It does feel that way. Like it's like you look at me like, why aren't you winning more? You turn an Hoshoryu. Come on!
I'm gonna go on Twitter.
God, you want to go on Twitter for Kotonowaka, I swear.
I do. I want to go on a Twitter rant so that he'll win. But the problem with Koto Echo is I don't know what the problem is. I don't see a footwork issue. He has very strong, like he's sturdy.
Mm-hmm.
When he goes to lose, I miss it. I'm going to have to like really pay attention to, is it an arm placement thing? Is it a weight thing? I'm always like, wait, you just lost? I thought you were going to win that. So I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he'll just win a lot of matches and I won't even get to analyze what went wrong. But I just think he can do so much more. I'm so confused by him.
I'm a little concerned for him because now that he is running out of runway for this figuring out what's wrong deal.
Yes.
Whether or not he knows it, whether or not everybody knows it, he's just still working on it. It's just like if you another 6 and 9, you could be Injurio. Now at the same time, maybe he's low enough down that he'll be able to get that winning score. But it's sort of like Koto Echo. It's just like yellow light.
Yellow light.
Concern.
Next is Tsudagisho, who is up from Juryo 8 East to Myogiryu 14 West. He did win the Juryo Yusho, and he is in Daieisho stable, so they got to have a double celebration, which is always cool. He was 12 and 3 to win that Yusho. He's been up before, but he's been down in Juryo for a while now. So who knows what he was working out. Maybe there was an injury. Maybe there was something else going on. To win the Yusho presumably means that you've gotten it figured out. And that's what Meisei did a couple of tournaments ago. He won it, and now he's making his way up. So, Tsudagisho's older, But he might have something in him to keep the momentum going.
He's, fresh by my eyes, definitely, as you said, a vet. All the newcomers to Juryo have been here before.
Yep.
So this is not news to them. It's sort of good for them. I'm looking at this Juryo Yusho and I'm like, that's some forward momentum definitely going for you. So you don't have to. Now, there's also some weirdness going on with the way that Juryo, because like large number of people out of Juryo due to COVID. So he sort of jumped over a bunch of people at the line. Yep. Maybe that's sort of some weirdness. Regardless, he does seem to be, definitely winning. Something to keep their eyes on. Seems to be more belt stuff from my brief research. So it's an interesting, because some of the lower people, there's a lot of push sumo, like in the top. And now we're seeing this resurgence of the belt sumo. And I don't know how far Tsurugisho is going to go. But you do have your Hoshoryus, your Kotonowakas, and your Kiribayamas, who are also all belt people. So we're seeing this interesting mix. So if nothing else, he's going to add a variety, and that everybody's not just going to be pushing each other. It's
good to have the belt guys. Obviously, that's the preferred style of sumo for fans as well, because you can do more techniques out of it. I would just say there is a lot of pusher thrusters, and my favorite's Takakeisho, so I'm not going against that. But it is nice to see some belt guys, because you want to see those kinds of matchups. Like, who's going to win? Slugfest or belt guy? And he's got a very awkward sized body, so it's hard to get his belt. So, he could throw some interesting matches in there. So next we have Yu Takayama. He did maintain his rank of Maegashira 15 East, 7 and 8. Was he... What was he? 7 and
4.
7 and 4, and ends up getting a Makikoshi. All looked like it was finally going to go his way, and it just fell apart. I know he's injured. That could be a factor. I don't know. I did hear, and I'm not surprised by this, that you don't talk about injuries in sumo. So that's just the athletic way, although in America these days, that rule kind of went away. Mm-hmm. Everybody talks about their injuries now. They've kept that in sumo where you just don't talk about it. So it's just so banged up all the time you can't figure it out. Or is he just in his own head and he can't handle that Asanoyama is way ahead of him when they came in at the same time? That's got to play a factor. But it's a shame that he was that close to getting a Kachikoshi and he let it fall apart.
It is a Greek tragedy in action.
This is way worse than a 2-13, because a 2-13 is... Boy, I had a bad tournament. A 7 and 8, when you could have gotten it, is like, I threw it away.
It is just pain on every level. It's a pain of the loss. It's a pain of the missed opportunities. There's the pain of knowing you were. It is rough. I feel that they couldn't lower his rank because there's just so much suffering already. Now, for Yu Takayama, it's just like come on.
It's good that they did that. You could take this as an opportunity.
Yes.
To throw it away because he lost to nothing in the end. He lost the chance to advance, but he didn't get knocked back into Juryo.
Yeah. That is the silver lining, that every tournament he is in the top division, it's another tournament for him to turn it back around. And maybe hitting this low point will be like, okay, now's the time.
I hope.
Yu Takayama, you feel the pain just hearing the name of this poor individual.
It's the new slow walk.
It is the new slow walk. Not as bad, but it's a different type. It's a different type of pain. Type. There's so many different types of pain.
I just see him and I'm like, no.
You look at it is. It's like when you see a 3-legged dog, you're like, oh man,
it's unfortunate.
It's a rough life.
Yeah, exactly. So, we'll be rooting for you. That's all we can say about that. Turn it around, buddy. You can do it. Turn it around. So next we have Hidenoumi, who is a returning veteran up from Juryo 6 West. If not for all that COVID stuff, he wouldn't be here.
Correct.
So he's got to make the most of this opportunity. And it's been a long time since we saw him, so I don't really have a good grasp. He was there when I first started watching.
Yeah. He is the wily veteran type who knows everything because he's been at it for a long enough time. Mm-hmm. So it is going to be interesting to see him work, because if there's anybody there who's still learning their ways, like, he's going to take Kotoeko and do bad things to him. I'm a little worried, because somebody like Hidenomi is either just going to just not have the shine on him and is going to get sort of knocked back down, or he's going to sort of just start like vulturing all these weak people and just start eating them out. And so sort of interesting to see how Hidenomi is going to mix with this lower echelon. Like, is Hidenomi going to be the final agony to be the death of Yutakayama, or is Yutakayama just going to channel this no more and just
I gotta beat this guy.
I gotta beat this guy.
He's just a Juryo man now.
Yeah, this is going to be some interesting stuff. And again, I've not seen him in the top division before, so it'll be like him, Chirigusho, and Daimami. Well, Daimami I might have seen, but those two guys, like these vets coming in, so it's like this new old.
Right, and that's kind of a theme in the whole thing, because a lot of these sumo guys, I don't know what it was like in the early 2000s and 90s, but I don't think it was like this. I mean, you're seeing guys all the way down to Makushita who were in the top division just sticking around.
Yeah.
So no longer is it, just here comes the fresh class, knocks the old class out. The old class hangs around and keeps trying to get back to where they were. So there's a constant clashing in all levels of the old guard and the new guard, and I wonder how long this will last. Next, we have another of your favorites, Kaisei, who got the COVID. We'll say the COVID safe, I hope, because he was going to get to Juryo if he didn't get his act together.
COVID was his stay of execution, and now his stay of execution is over, so I'm expecting this to be the last time I see him in the top division. I am hoping, similar to Chiyotairyu, that he took it to regroup, to transform, maybe to work on that. I think with Kaisei, though, I group him mentally with Aoyama, and that it's just like the age, the injuries, time is just beating on them in a way that no wrestler can. Exactly. Like, you have to be a special kind of wrestler to wrestle forever. Yoshikaze.
Hakuho, I mean, he's not the oldest, but he's getting there. He's at the top of his game, fighting. So it takes a special type of wrestler to not just succumb once your time happens. Kaisei's not it. He's just not that guy, and that's fine.
It's fine.
But it's unfortunate because you like him and you want to see him.
I do want to see him. I'm going into this, I'm like, if he gets a winning score, I get to see him again. If it doesn't, it's fine, because I sort of prepared myself for it.
Yes.
And every time he's on the dohyo, I have to smile.
I'm pretty sure he's in Tochinoshin stable. Am I right about that?
Sounds right. I don't know.
If that's the case, you've got a stable that's full of guys that all might be gone at the same time. So hopefully they got the young guns coming up. So next, Daimami. I do remember seeing him a couple of times in the upper division, but it was years ago. He made his way up to Juryo 1 West, so he did earn his spot. But it was with an 8 and 7, so it was just barely. He never really stood out to me back in the day, so I wouldn't be too surprised if he's in and out. But he is holding the coveted 16 spot. I know it's not the 17
spot.
Not the
17.
But you never know. The new story Basho could be the 16 spot.
Well, he is. It is the lowest ranked person from Juryo. It's the winning formula.
It is.
So,
especially if COVID comes in and takes a bunch of people out or something.
Daimami is in the underdog seat. Now, we'll see what he got. All three of these guys, like none of them have the kind of momentum going like when Kotonowaka came in and they're like, this is the guy.
Right.
Or Hoshoryu just like, this is the guy. Or like, and there's none of that vibe with these three guys. This isn't to say that they don't got the vibe, but it means that you're likely going to expect to see them mixing it up in the middle.
At the least.
So, prove me wrong, guys.
Right. They've got they've got the gears in.
Nothing will make Hakuho angrier than losing the cup to Daimami. By all means.
Please.
I want to see that sourpuss.
The downside to Hakuho is that he doesn't fight to the end if he's losing anymore. I do miss if he gets to the end, I remember he was in the race in Kakuryu. It was a tournament Kakuryu won. And it was like 3 days before the end of the tournament, he just drops out with an injury. It's like he's just at that place now where he won't fight for it hard enough.
He has to preserve. He's in preservation.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, if Daimami beat him, I think it would send him immediately out the door.
Oh, God, yeah.
He wouldn't even try to recover.
He'd be done.
But that's it. I'll see you in May. So, we just got a couple of notes about Juryo. Sadanaomi moved to Juryo 4 West. Akawa, the unfortunate Akawa, who got COVID, but not at the right time, so he could preserve his rank. So he had a rough tournament, and that was after the car accident. He's down to Juryo 1 West. He lost his spot to Hidenomi. Tokushoryu to Juryo 1 East. That was a surprise.
So Sadanomi was bottom rung. So the moment he got 8 losses, he was back in Juryo. Akawa was making sure 13, so not too far down, but he had double-digit losses. The last day, Akawa fought Hidenomi. Usually when they pit people from different divisions on the last day like this, it's a winner gets the rank.
Gotcha.
So for Akawa, losing that final match was sort of the nail in the coffin for him. And so, and again, double-digit losses, low enough so that it would make sense. The thing about Tokushoryu, he was 3-12. He had a terrible time of it, but he was making sure at 8.
Right.
So usually it's safe, but the thing is that was 12 losses, and the wins he had weren't really good, and some of the people who were lower down had better records. And I think he also had a fight for your place match with Daimami, and he lost that. Now, Daimami was coming up anyway, but the fact that Tokushoryu lost the winner stays on match meant that Tsurugisho got the spot. There's some weirdness going on the bottom and the top, and I think some of it was just them trying to reconcile around COVID.
Well, that's it. The COVID thing made it so that they had to make choices that were outside of the numbers themselves.
Yes, and I think that there's a couple of people that basically got sacrificed, and Tokushoryu was one of them. Of note is that the Juryo COVID wrestlers lost a rank.
Interesting.
So all the people up top maintained their rank. Now, of note is that the 1 East, 2 East, 3 East, 4 East, all COVID. So what they ended up doing for Tokushoryu and Akawa is that they made them, Juryo East and West, for getting just barely knocked out of the top division. And then all the people who had COVID lost a rank. So like Ishiura was 1 East, then he became 2 East. Enho was like 3, now he's 4. And so there was a slight slide in COVID. Nobody lost out of Juryo, but Juryo's always been a battle of inches. So this is
true, but they might give them, like, if you perform well enough, we're going to give you the bump.
So this is another thing, is also like there's again unenviable decision working for this Banzuke right now, and I'm never gonna want to even pretend to understand how it all works. But that was how they dealt with it, which is kind of interesting. Well,
I mean, for better or for worse, they had spots that they had to figure out.
Yep.
So they made a choice, and
yeah,
it's up to the individual wrestlers to try to right or wrong if they felt wronged, or take advantage if you were somebody who benefited from it.
This is what it's going to boil down to, is that some of the people who had like Ishiura and Enho, it is COVID or not, it is on them to get their stuff together and come back.
Right.
And for Ishiura, there is no functional difference between 1 East and 2 East for that.
Right. With Enho, maybe,
and like this gets so complicated. But it was interesting that they seem to make space on the top of Juryo for Tokushoryu and Akawa to say, sorry, we're bumping you out of this because of the whole COVID thing, but we'll give you Juryo 1. And then they go to the COVID people in Juryo and just say, sorry, we're going to bump you down a little bit. But maybe if you get, maybe Ishiura will get the nod if he's 8 and 7.
Right.
When normally Juryo 2, you'd be like, well, we'll see what happens. But so
they've left themselves open for doing something.
They got to do something. So they are taking and owing favors.
Yes,
through all this, and so that's going to be this game of unseen elements, which is going to go into how March will be affecting May.
Exactly, because there were a whole bunch of lower division guys who just got COVID again recently. They should presumably all be better before this tournament, but you never know. You never know.
Never know.
So this is going to be an ongoing thing, and I guess it's good to set some sort of precedent of how you're going to do it when it's tons of guys getting it at the same time.
Yeah.
So just 2 more notes. One is Abi, I believe, is supposed to return this tournament.
Out of suspension.
Yeah, but I didn't hear anything about him.
Now that he wrote down Makushita 56.
Makushita 56.
So it could be like a tablet. Oh yeah, he's back. But
yeah, like at this point, it's like you're irrelevant. Work your way back up.
That I think we'll hear about Abi when he's back in Jiryo.
Yes, and it may take some time.
A little bit.
And a big note is Tomokaze, after a year and a half, is returning at Jonidan 55, 500 ranks down from where he was when he got injured in the upper division, and he was at the top of his game. He is the new Terunofuji story, or
Ryuden
or Chiyonokuni. Not quite the same because he wasn't Ozeki, but I mean, he was so good. He was so good. You never know where he could be a year and a half from now. He could be an Ozeki.
Yeah. So this time next year, Tomokaze Yusho for March 2022.
Let's call it.
it.
Yeah, why not?
Tomokaze Yusho, March 2022.
Take that right out of the pocket, put it right on the shelf, a couple pieces of tape.
We're good.
Done.
Under starters orders.
It was good to be with you all, as always. I hope you will tune into the tournament. It starts when, John?
March 13th. 14th. Oh, here. I have a calendar. Why do I have to guess?
Yeah, let's look at the calendar.
The 14th.
Okay, make sure you tune in on the 14th for the tournament, and we'll be catching you later.
Thank you for listening.